Hey everyone, welcome back, and today is a very special Halloween story time. So I'm going to be telling you my ghost stories, or what I perceive as being ghost stories or paranormal activity. But since it's close to Halloween, that's why I kind of waited to do this video. But let's just get started with probably, as far back as I can remember, the first time anything really weird ever happened to me. And I don't necessarily remember how old I was, but I know I believed in Santa at the time, so I was pretty young. And one thing about me is, like, the night before something really big happens, for instance Christmas, my birthday, I'm going on a trip, that night I can't sleep very well. So I'm up most of the night trying to go to sleep, but my brain is just running wild thinking about, you know, opening presents or waking up on time to get to the airport, that kind of thing. So it was the night before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and I was laying in bed, and my parents were awake because my room was at the very end of the hallway in this house, and my door was like a little bit cracked, and I had just gotten up out of bed and like peeked down the hallway to, I don't know why, maybe to like get a glimpse of Santa or just see if my parents were still awake, and they were still awake. So I crawled back into my bed and I laid down on my pillow facing the ceiling. And I was just thinking like about maybe like my presents or something. I don't really remember what exactly I was thinking about, but I know that I was awake. I had just gotten up out of bed and I wasn't sleepwalking or anything. And I remember looking up at the ceiling and seeing what I can only describe now as maybe like a projection. Like, you know, someone has a projector and like you watch a movie or something, but it was a projector, what it looked like. It looked like a projector screen of Santa Claus, like just his face, like nothing around it, like no square. It was just his face. And I know this sounds crazy. And at the time I wasn't scared. I was just like, what is this? I'd never seen anything like this before. And the thing is, it was kind of moving, like blinking and stuff and like moving his mouth, but he wasn't talking or anything. He was just kind of like watching me. And I remember thinking, Santa's on my roof. And I was like, oh my God, like I should go to sleep. And then I remember thinking, well, he's looking at me and he knows that I'm awake, so, you know, maybe he's just gonna wait till I fall asleep. But I didn't want to fall asleep because I was slightly, I guess, unnerved, like not nervous, but just kind of like uneasy. That's the word, uneasy, about someone looking down at me while I was, sleeping, even if it was Santa. So I remember staring at this projector thing for a long time. And eventually, now this is where it gets kind of creepy. I remember like staring at it. And then I remember thinking in my head, he needs to leave, like he needs to go. And at that moment, it's like this whole scene was like playing in my head as I was watching it. I know this sounds crazy. It sounds like maybe I was sleeping, but I promise you I wasn't. Like the whole scene was playing in my head. And he, now get me. Now wait for this. So imagine you're wearing a mask, okay? So you have the mask on, and it has holes for eyes, and a hole for a nose, and then a hole for a mouth, right? So imagine taking the mask off, and the mask is still there, but the eye holes, the nose hole, I guess not really many masks have actual nose holes, but this one did. This is what it looked like to me in my head, or in my eyes. Had a nose hole, a mouth hole. They would all be like dark, right? Like if they were facing like the ground or something, they'd all be dark. So that's what happened. Santa moved his head away from the mask, and there was just like two dark eyes, a dark nose, and a dark mouth, like waiting for a face to go back in the mask. And then one of his elves came and like put his face in the mask to like watch me while Santa went to go check his naughty list. I don't know. But I remember the elf's nose was really long, so it like stuck out. Oh my God. I don't remember, like, that's what I remember. And I remember staring at this thing for, again, a long time. And eventually, like, I went to sleep, and I don't remember it ever disappearing, but I remember I fell asleep, you know, because I woke up the next day, and it was so vivid in my head. And I think I told my dad, and he was just like, all right, cool, you know, whatever, kind of like blew it off. And I didn't think anything of it as far as it being paranormal, but I can't really explain it, so... But that was like the first thing that I remember being kind of like sketchy or weird. So the next incident was actually a lot of years later. I was probably like 18 at the time, and I was in the Navy, so I was going to night school. And I remember getting out of class and being really tired. And I went up to my room, and I was really exhausted from going to night school, and just it was a new area that I was living in, and there was just a lot to take in. I had to study and all that. So I remember being like really exhausted and everything. And I got out of class one night and went to my room and, you know, got ready for bed real quick because I was tired, so I didn't want to linger too long. But I remember laying down in bed, and I remember not being very comfortable. So I was laying down in bed. I had my pillow underneath my head. I lifted my head up, you know, and fluffed my pillow, just like this, you know, fluffed it up. And so my hands were up here by my head. So then I tried to, you know, go back to a comfortable position, you know, my hands down, my head laying on my pillow. But when I got about here, my head was on the pillow now, but my hands were still moving down, you know, to my, you know, just to like lay flat. And I got stuck. Like, I couldn't move. And when I say I couldn't move, like, I was trying so hard to push my arms down, and they weren't moving. And in my head, I thought, what is wrong with me, you know? Like, this has never happened before. I'm kind of freaked out. And I remember I was like, well, what I have to do is I have to just try to push really hard down. And, you know, eventually, I'm thinking this in my head, eventually I'll be able to like break free. So I'm pulling and pushing my arms like so hard. And it's like they're moving like it's like they're not even moving at all. Like, they're moving so slow. Like, no, if someone was looking at me, I would just look like this. Like, I wasn't moving my hands. And at the same time that I'm trying to like pull my hands down, I'm thinking to myself, like, how long is this gonna happen? Like, am I gonna get stuck like this? I'm like freaking out in my head. And then I noticed that I like can't swallow like my spit. So it's like building up in my mouth. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna drown on my own spit. No one's gonna find me because no one's gonna expect to see me until that night. And it was like probably maybe 3 in the morning, and I didn't have to be at class probably until like 8 maybe. And I was like, I'm gonna die, and no one's gonna find me because no one's gonna, you know, I'm gonna not show up to class, and then they're probably gonna think, you know, where is she? They're gonna call me, and then it's gonna take a while, and they're gonna have to find my room and everything. And I was like freaking out. And then all of a sudden, like, it was just like I was let free, and I could move my arms, and I like sat up, and I was so scared, and I didn't know what to do. So that was like incident number 2. And that has never happened to me before. That had never happened to me like since then. And it just really freaked me out. I've always remembered, I've never forgotten like that happening. So then, even later than that, I was in Texas for Christmas one year while I was living in Guam. And we rented a cabin, and I was sleeping, and I ended up waking up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't get back to sleep. And I was like, well, this is annoying, you know, it happened to me before. I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. They just can't fall back asleep once they wake up. So I was sitting there, and I'm like, God, you know, like, I really wish I could go to sleep. I'm kind of tired. I just couldn't, like, I guess close my mind off to like fall asleep. And then all of a sudden I got this terrible pressure on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. It's like someone was pushing really hard on my chest, and it was just really hard for me to breathe. And I started like freaking out, and I sat up in bed, and I was like, you know, like trying to like breathe normally, and it just wasn't happening. So I ended up getting some water, and I felt a little bit better, but I eventually went to sleep, and that's happened to me a couple times since then. And it's always like random, and it doesn't happen often, but I'd say probably like 3 or 4 times it has happened since that one incident. So crazy. So, goodness. And that's not even the last thing. So when I was living in Guam, I was alone a lot of the times, and it was just me and my dog Baxter for like weeks, maybe even like a month at a time. But Baxter, and they say, well, I've heard that like children, like small children and animals can see spirits or ghosts or anything like that. So I remember on a couple occasions, like during the day, because I stayed at home and I didn't really necessarily leave the house a lot. And I knew like everyone that lived around me, so I knew if someone was gonna be home. I kind of like knew like when they would be home, not like as a creepy thing, but I just knew my neighbors, and I knew like when they were like up and about and like getting ready for work and all that stuff. And so at this point in time, everyone was pretty much like gone. Like everyone was at work, and it was just me and Baxter, and I think I was like reading or something. And a lot of this happened a lot, but he would just like be sleeping, and then all of a sudden he'd like lift up like he heard something, but then his eyes would like follow something, like someone was walking and he was just like following them, like, where are you going, and it would freak me out, and I'd be like, what is going on? And like I said, that happened a couple times. But one thing that happened to me personally, and I know Baxter heard it too because he reacted to it, but I was in my living room again, and it was quiet. There was nothing, like no TV on, no radio or anything. I was like reading or doing homework on my computer or something, I don't know. And I heard, because the condominium that we lived in was all tile, so no carpet in any of the house. It was just all tile throughout. We had this really long hallway, and I heard like high heels, like a woman wearing high heels walking on the tile, and it was so close. Like it was not someone that lived above me. One, because I know that they were like in the Philippines at the time. It wasn't someone below me, because it just wasn't. They were not there. But it sounded like it was in my house. And Baxter heard it too, because he like got up and he like went and looked down the hall, and he just kind of like cocked his head to the side, and I was like, oh my God, no. So that freaked me out. So I think that's all that happened in Guam, and up to like where I am now. Like that's all the paranormal like experiences that I've had. But when I was living in Guam, I did do YouTube, and I like was just starting up in YouTube, and you can go watch some of my videos. They're crazy. But anyways, when I was living in Guam, I thought, you know what? Since these things have been happening to me a lot, like in the house, because doors would open, doors would close, like in Guam, like, and then, sometimes that can be explained, but when you know that the air conditioner's not on, like all the doors and windows are closed, like, and the doors are opening and closing, So I was gonna make a video about, the high heels, the doors closing, Baxter like sensing things, and I made the video in the Guam house, and I like edited it. Well, actually I didn't edit it yet, but I watched it all the way through to like, whatever. So I watched all the way through, and it was perfect. I put it into my editing device, which I think at the time was iMovie, and it was corrupted. Like the whole middle part was corrupted. Like you could still hear the audio, but the video was corrupted. You couldn't see. It was just a black screen. And I was like, that's weird. I watched it back on my camera. It was fine. So I like deleted it, re-put it on my computer. It was fine. As soon as I put it into my editing system, it was messed up. Like the same spot. And I was like, this is so weird. So then I was like, okay, that's really weird. Well, let me make a video about this, about the whole thing, including the corrupted footage. Well, when I reshot the video, there was this sound in the video, like, ding, ding, like something clinking on something. And I thought, when I first heard it, I thought maybe this is the tripod or the camera strap like hitting my tripod or something like that. Maybe it could be like a fan or something. So I was like, well, at first I was like freaked out, but then I was like, wait, because I always try to like think about things logically first. And then if I can't figure anything out logically, well then I, move on to paranormal happenings. But I couldn't figure it out. I reshot the video, same thing. And I was like, well, this is weird. But anytime I shot something other than like paranormal videos, there was no clinking sound. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just wait to make this video until I move. Because I was moving in like a couple months anyways. And then I ended up moving and I just never ended up doing the video. One, because I was moving, and then two, I knew that this would probably be better to do around Halloween, So that's why I waited so long, and that's why it's been so long since that initial video. But yeah, crazy stuff. And looking back now, well, I even said it when I lived in Guam, but I like felt a presence in my house in Guam. And I wouldn't feel it all the time. I would feel it just certain times of day or certain days. Like it wasn't like a pattern or anything. I would just be like sitting down, like watching TV or something, and I'd just be like, someone's here with me, Someone is in the room with me. And then it would go away and I'd be like, okay, whatever. And there would be times even at night where I'd like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, someone is in here with me. Like someone is in the house with me. So I kind of joke about it now because I've told people that like I felt a presence in Guam. And even like in my old houses when I was little, I did feel presence, like ghost presence or spirit presence or something. But I never really like chalked it up to being like ghosts. I just thought like, oh, it just feels like someone's here with me. But I never like, I guess, thought about it as being ghosts until like later on in life. But I've told people about it and they jokingly ask like, oh, well, is your house haunted now? And honestly, I don't feel any presence in my house here in New Mexico. And I haven't experienced anything since I've been here, which is good, I suppose. But I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any paranormal experiences or stories, feel free to leave them down in the comments below and we can talk about them. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not already. Come back later this week because I upload twice a week. And thank you guys for watching.